The humiliation wasn't subtle. It happened at the annual command assembly, in front of hundreds of officers, foreign delegates, and press. Captain Ibrahim, Traoré, stood at attention, waiting for what he believed would be a commendation for his performance in the eastern frontier. Instead, General Faruko stepped forward, unfolded a paper, and read aloud. Effective immediately, Captain Traoré is relieved of field command. He will be reassigned to civilian liaison duties. Reason: lack of discipline, insubordination, and inappropriate fraternization with non-military populations. Gasps. Then silence. Then a slow wave of smug smiles from the upper ranks. Traoré didn't flinch. He saluted, accepted the letter, and walked off the stage without a word. The next speaker, a well-decorated colonel, leaned into the mic and joked, "Perhaps Captain Traoré should take up politics. He's already shaking hands better than shooting rifles." Laughter filled the room. That night his locker was emptied, his weapons taken, his map collection boxed and handed over as a courtesy. They didn't just demote him, they erased him. His new post? A back room in the Ministry of Social Affairs. No windows, a broken fan, a desk with one drawer. His assignment? Reviewing civic engagement reports and writing weekly memos about public morale. A ghost job, designed to silence him. But Traoré didn't vanish. He read every report, every complaint, every local leader's handwritten note, and he started to see something. Patterns, blind spots, villages forgotten, warnings ignored. He visited markets, listened in public squares, met imams and pastors, youth leaders and women's groups. They spoke freely because he no longer wore rank. And for the first time, he saw the country through their eyes. Not lines on a map, but wounds. And he wrote, not to HQ, but to himself. Pages, then folders, then a full dossier titled, "The Voices They Refuse to Hear." While the generals smirked over charts and speeches, Traoré was building something else. A mirror. One he would soon hold up to their faces and force the entire country to see what they had chosen to ignore. At first, the report seemed useless. Scans of handwritten letters, complaints from villages no one could find on a map, grievances about broken wells, missing teachers, food theft, corrupt officials. To the generals, it was background noise, the sound of a poor country being poor. But to Traoré, it was a map, not of roads or rivers, of pain, of abandonment, of betrayal. He began to mark locations on his own wall, each colored pin, one village, red for security complaints, yellow for economic collapse, blue for corruption tied to the military. After 2 weeks, the wall looked like a battlefield. After 2 months, it looked like a revolution waiting to happen. He didn't make calls. He traveled, not with an escort, with a notebook and 2 pairs of boots. In every village, he sat on benches, shared tea, listened. Sometimes he said nothing for hours, but people remembered his eyes, the kind that didn't judge, the kind that didn't forget. One night, an elder in the village of Faso handed him a rolled parchment. It was a map, hand-drawn, showing where militia groups had been extorting farmers at gunpoint. Traoré asked, "Why give this to me?" The man replied, "Because you're the only one who asked why we stopped planting." Meanwhile at HQ, his weekly memos were ignored, filed, unread, marked civilian noise. But he kept writing them, not for approval, for record. Each one more detailed, each with copies of testimonies, timestamps, village names, patterns of abuse, and he kept one version for himself, marked for the People's Court. No one knew what he meant. Not yet. What they did notice was that his name began showing up again. In footnotes, in field reports. Captain Traoré helped recover stolen grain in Jibo. Villagers report increased morale due to Captain Traoré's presence. Unconfirmed, Traoré intervened in a forced conscription case near border. The generals grew irritated. He's acting like he still has authority. He's turning these peasants into a constituency. They weren't wrong, but they were too late. Because Traoré wasn't campaigning. He was documenting. He was gathering. And he was preparing to hold the entire chain of command accountable with the one army they never saw coming, the people. It started small. A captain in the south refused to carry out an eviction order, citing Traoré's civilian reports. Then, a lieutenant leaked fuel requisition papers showing double billing and cited a memo written by that dismissed captain with the notebook. The name was spreading, not as rebellion, as precedent. General Faruko summoned a private meeting. The air was thick. "He's poisoning the ranks with sympathy," one major barked. "With facts," another corrected. Faruko snapped, "Facts don't matter when loyalty's at stake." But they all knew the truth. Traoré wasn't building a faction. He was building a mirror. And one by one, the cracks were showing. So they moved to silence him. Officially this time. A routine audit team arrived at his civilian office with boxes and authority. They claimed he'd mishandled sensitive documents and suspended him pending investigation. They expected him to panic. He didn't. He handed them his files, neatly labeled, and one special folder titled Redundancy Plan. Inside, 17 names, civil servants, low-ranking officers, regional elders. Every one of them already had copies of his full archive, stored in different provinces. His work couldn't be erased, only amplified. That same week, someone, no one knows who, leaked a full dossier to the national press. Not a press conference, not a protest, just a quiet email with one attachment. The People They Forgot, by IT. The document was explosive. Testimonies, photos, names, forged budgets, vanished aid convoys, arrest reports of civilians silenced for speaking up. And a final paragraph. If asking questions is insubordination, then perhaps the system fears the answers. Headlines erupted. The ghost captain returns. Betrayal in the barracks. The notebook that shook the palace. Traoré stayed silent. He made no public appearance, but villages painted his initials on water tanks. Young officers folded handwritten quotes from his reports into their field kits. And in cities once silent, graffiti bloomed. He listens. They lie. Faruko convened a special tribunal, not for Traoré, for those who leaked. It backfired. 2 officers refused to testify. A third stood and said, "If we punished him for listening, we deserve to be judged for ignoring." The room went dead quiet. A colonel stood, then another. Not in protest, in recognition. They weren't loyal to power anymore. They were loyal to truth. They tried to spin it. Disgruntled officer, forged files, enemy propaganda. But it was too late. The truth didn't come from one man anymore. It came from mothers holding empty ration cards, from wounded soldiers speaking to cameras, from elders who remembered the last honest uniform they saw was dust-stained and silent, and it came from within the ranks. One dawn, in 5 different bases across the country, soldiers refused deployment. Not with violence, with documents. Each handed their commanders a printout of Traoré's report. Some had it folded in their breast pockets. Others had it taped above their bunks. One private whispered, "If they call this rebellion, then let them arrest every man who still has a soul." General Faruko resigned before the tribunal even opened. His last words to the press: "We underestimated silence. We thought it meant defeat. It meant preparation." He left the compound with no escort, no salute, and no legacy. Then came the people. From rural provinces to crowded markets, they gathered outside government buildings, not shouting, waiting for a face, for a voice. And on national television, unannounced, Ibrahim Traoré walked onto the stage of the empty Parliament Hall. He wore no medals, only his original uniform, worn, faded, and stitched. He placed a notebook on the podium, spoke clearly. "I never wanted a title. I only wanted truth to matter again. But if a title is what it takes to protect those who were ignored, then I accept." The next day, the Transitional Council named him interim head of national reform, not as a politician, as a guardian. His first acts? Full audit of military contracts, whistleblower protection laws, and a national listening council made up of farmers, teachers, and market vendors. When asked if he forgave those who tried to erase him, he answered, "Forgiveness is easy. Forgetting would be a betrayal." And somewhere in the north, on a water tank painted with the letters IT, a child climbed up and traced the faded words beneath. He didn't raise his voice. He raised his country.